Good afternoon, it's Monday, December 21. I'm Anthony Lugg with the Midday News. Special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. Cabinet is now locked in a meeting to decide the way forward following the outbreak of a new strain of the coronavirus in the UK. Senior strategist in the Tourism Ministry, Delano Seabright, says due to the fluid nature of the situation, lengthy discussions are needed.
It's a very fluid situation. We have a number of UK tourists on the island. We have many Jamaicans and members of the diaspora who have made plans to fly to Jamaica. In any event, there's a Tier 4 restriction in place for London and southeastern England, which is where the majority of the population lives, and that restricts them from traveling internationally. So from that point, there's already a restriction on many UK travelers. But going forward, the cabinet will have to make a final decision as it relates to what happens with flights going forward.
The Tier 4 measures in London and South.
I believe a decision will be in short order. The Ministry of Health, of course, is on top of the situation, and I know the Prime Minister, the Tourism Minister, and the Health Minister have been in discussions, and the whole world is in discussions on how to handle this new variant of COVID-19 that is affecting the UK and some other countries.
The Tier 4 measures in London and Southeast England will be in place for an initial 2-week period with a review on December 30. Now, as for tourists which are scheduled to arrive on the island between today, Monday and Tuesday, Mr. Seabright gave this response.
Well, the Ministry of Health and the public health officers are fully aware of the situation, and I'm sure they have put the necessary preparations in place. But in any event, it's a very fluid situation. Anything can happen, including whether those flights come in or not. So it's a fluid situation, and we'll have to wait for further word from Cabinet.
The tourist sector is bracing for another hit. This as the new strain of the COVID-19 virus could see fresh travel restrictions being put in place to prevent an outbreak of the virus, which is said to be more transmissible. O'Shane Masters reports.
An already bleak outlook for the start of the winter tourist season, but there was hope that come next year there would be a slight pickup. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett on Friday said that the sector could generate at least 40% of last year's revenue this year. However, that hope seems to be fading as a new strain of the COVID-19 virus might stall that projected growth. It comes as the United Kingdom, one of the island's major source markets, is battling a new strain of the COVID-19 virus. President of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, JHTA, Clifton Reeder, says he's hoping the government will give a clear directive as to the way forward.
I would imagine that by this evening we should be hearing from the PM. I know they are considering several options, but it is very, very important that we protect our citizens and not really importing this virus or this new strain into Jamaica, especially at this time when we are struggling with hospital beds, with just containing the current virus in several locales at this time.
Mr. Reeder says the directive from the government will be important to determine how the island's tourist sector progresses.
Right now, with this spread of a new strain of virus, it seems as if it's going to impact us badly. We're hoping not, and we're also hoping that the vaccine will act against it. So that, further protection. Once source market is vaccinated, then our industry will start to pick up, and hopefully we should see better numbers going into April, May next year. But if it continues to spread as it is in the UK right now, containment measures by government is essential in order not to get it into Jamaica and spread it around, because that's definitely going to affect the tourism sector.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, members of the medical fraternity are calling on the government to make a quick decision in the relation to the way forward. President of the Medical Association of Jamaica, Dr. Andrew Manning, says while new strains have not been unusual with the COVID virus, the mutant COVID, which is 70% more transmissible, is of concern.
It doesn't seem to be more virulent, but if it's more contagious, you're going to get more persons getting it in a shorter period of time. So definitely the authorities have to watch it carefully and decide what they're going to do about visitors coming in from the UK. Because even though it's not more virulent, as I said, if you have a new strain that's more contagious coming here, then we're probably going to see more cases.
As to the next steps, Dr. Manning says technocrats within the health ministry will have to look at all the relevant information and make a determination quickly. The Grenada government has suspended all air traffic between Grenada and the United Kingdom. The measure took effect yesterday following the announcement of a new strain of COVID-19, which was recently discovered in parts of the UK. The Grenada government says anyone who has been in the UK in the previous 14 days will not be permitted entry into the country. Scientists have advised that this new strain of COVID-19 poses a new health risk as it appears to spread more easily and may be up to 70% more transmissible than the earlier strain. The Grenada government says it will continue to monitor developments in the United Kingdom and make further adjustments to Grenada's entry protocols accordingly. The new strain of coronavirus has now spread to at least 6 countries across the world. Mutant COVID, as it's being called, has been detected in Denmark, the Netherlands, Australia, and Belgium, as well as the UK. Denmark said it found 9 cases of the new strain in November. 1 was recorded in Australia, while the Netherlands announced it had detected a case this month. There have also been unconfirmed reports of at least 1 case in Belgium. Now, Scotland and Wales have both picked up cases of the new strain in recent weeks. Italy said it has detected a patient infected with the variant, making it the 5th country outside the UK to report a case. That country's health minister said the citizen flew from the UK to Rome in the last few days with his partner, who did not test positive. They are now in isolation. In the meantime, the health minister in France says it was entirely possible the version of the virus was already circulating in the country despite tests not picking it up. Meanwhile, the chair of the World Health Organization Global Outbreak Alert Response Network, Professor Dale Fisher, says vigilance is key as the new variant of coronavirus emerges in the UK.
So, of course, we know that viruses mutate. That's what they do. How concerned are you about this new COVID variant showing up in the UK and elsewhere? And are people overreacting, or is this exactly what should happen in this situation?
I think the answer's in your question, actually, Rosemary. It's not particularly unexpected. Mutations do occur. Of course, we're concerned when we see something that's perhaps slightly surprising. This particular lineage has got a lot of mutations in a critical part of the virus. But it really is just reminding us of the basic measures and why vigilance is critical.
And it's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back. Continuing the news. And news just in. Effective immediately, the government of Jamaica will ban all flights coming into the island from the UK for a period of 2 weeks ending January 4, 2021. However, flights coming into the country over the next 24 hours and outbound flights to the UK will be allowed up to midnight Tuesday, December 22. The country is expecting 3 flights from the UK over the next 24 hours, one of which is already en route. However, passengers who board those flights would be subjected to a minimum of 48-hour state quarantine and PCR testing. Passengers who test positive will be fitted with who test negative will be fitted with armbands for monitoring and released to complete their 14-day quarantine at home, while those found to be positive will be isolated in state facilities until recovered. Family members of persons who arrive on these flights will be able to pick up their relatives. after the minimum 48-hour quarantine. Now, family members are reminded that they must strictly adhere to the infection prevention and control measures when picking up their relatives, as well as during the mandatory quarantine period, as persons may develop symptoms during the 14-day quarantine period. Now, persons who arrive in country from other ports of entry via the UK will also be required to adhere to all restrictions in line with provisions under the Quarantine Act. At this time, Jamaicans are strongly advised not to travel to the UK. Those who travel overseas, including to UK, would be subject to the established quarantine or isolation procedures on their return to Jamaica. And a number of countries have also halted flights from the United Kingdom following the outbreak of the new variant of COVID-19. We turn to the CNN for more.
The implications of this new variant that could be 70% more infectious but not more deadly in the UK are growing. More than 24 countries now banning flights from the UK. France, just across the channel in Europe, has now put a 48-hour block on any trucks coming and going, accompanied trucks coming and going across the channel. The concern here is that 20% of goods coming and going from the UK pass through there. Some of that is fresh food, some of it frozen food. And the concern for the government in its emergency cabinet session today, with government experts in there as well, will be to make sure that food supplies are not significantly interrupted, that the implications of this new international isolation can be overcome. Meanwhile, people in the UK coming to terms with the fact that for Christmas later this week, the Prime Minister told them that they could have 3 different households in their house for Christmas, for that Christmas lunch. They're now being told, 16.4 million, 1/3 of the people in England being told they cannot have anyone else but their own family in their house for Christmas.
The island's COVID-19 cases is now at 12,289. 65 new cases were recorded yesterday, with ages ranging from 7 months to 89 years. St. James recorded majority of the cases, followed by Westmoreland and Trelawney. In the meantime, the Health Ministry says 77 persons have been hospitalized, with 6 critically ill. Deaths relating to the respiratory illness remains at 286. However, 1 death is under investigation. There are calls for more information about how the government will use the annual $11 billion bill drawdown from the National Housing Trust. The call was made during the latest sitting of the Senate, where the bill to extend the drawdown for an additional 5 years was passed. Herman Green reports.
Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke tabled the bill 2 weeks ago in the House of Representatives as part of efforts to aid economic recovery from the COVID pandemic. On Friday, senators on both sides supported the move, passing the bill without amendment. However, again, there were concerns.
And I don't believe enough information is being given when we say we're taking this money without giving further details as to how we will spend it. Because if it is inappropriately spent, inappropriately spent, then we will always be here seeking to get more and more money. I fear.
Opposition Senator Damian Crawford suggests that the annual $11.7 billion drawdown should be put towards a household income for those in greater need because of the COVID pandemic. For Senator Lambert Brown, the recent death of a fire victim at the Kingston Public Hospital warranted investment in that facility.
That some of this $57 billion, which is because employers employ workers, that money is now available to government. Like a burn unit be established, and I hope the doctors support me on that. I hope you, Mr. President, support me on that, and I hope the rest of the senators on that side, as those on this side, support me that we need a functioning burn unit to protect poor people.
There were also questions about better use of the NHT funds for more affordable housing solutions for people in need.
That would enable the NHT to build even more houses. They have done so well, but can you imagine if they were able to push out with greater speed and efficiency, Mr. President? I think that we ought to consider it, and I would commend it even as I support the bills. Thank you.
Legislation for the annual drawdown will expire in March 2021. The current bill extends the act for an additional 5 years.
Residents in St. Elizabeth will soon get an additional fire station in the parish. The Jamaica Fire Brigade disclosed recently that it has located a suitable area in Balaclava to construct a fire station. Shemela Pullen reports.
In 2009, the Jamaica Fire Brigade conducted a review to assess the challenges firefighters face when there is a fire. According to the brigade's commissioner, Stuart Beckford, from the review, data show a number of areas across Jamaica in need of a fire station. Balaclava St. Elizabeth is one of them.
St. Elizabeth is one of those parishes that have, a large farming community, but there are also other development taking place in the parish. And so what the data would have shown is that Balaclava is one of those areas where we would have responded to a number of calls, and the distance to travel from Santa Cruz to get to Balaclava. Sometimes, when we do get there, our efforts are basically negligible because by the time we get there, whatever is burning sometimes would have been destroyed.
Mr. Stewart says the idea is to put a station in the Balaclava area. He says this will reduce the losses persons in those areas are experiencing. The land has already been identified.
The municipal corporation would have indicated that there's a piece of property in Balaclava that they believe is ideally situated to house a fire station. So I'll be visiting to have a look at that to make a determination as to whether or not it is so, and to then communicate this information to our parent ministry and of course our board.
Councillor for the Balaclava Division, Everton Fisher, says this is long overdue. Mr. Fisher says persons in nearby parishes will also benefit from the station.
I believe it will suit the people of not only northern St. Elizabeth, but northwest St. Elizabeth, southern Trelawney, and northwest Manchester. If you look at the geographical area surrounding those parishes, the fire station is far-fetched. Mandeville, Christiana, Falmouth. So we believe that a fire station in Balaclava is more than needed.
Shemela Pullen, TVJ News.
Investigators are still trying to find out the cause of a fire that destroyed a section of the Juicy Patty outlet in Brownstown, St. Anne. Acting Deputy Superintendent for the parish, Roland Walters, said the fire brigade received a call from persons who noticed smoke coming from the building about 9:45 a.m. A team from the Brownstown station responded. The firefighters had to break doors and locks to gain access to the building.
Upon entry, we discovered that the coffee-making machine was the cause of the smoke. It was removed from the building. The building was ventilated and declared safe. Damages and the origin or the cause of the smoke emanating from the machine, we are not able to say at this point.
The other shops on the building were not affected. The loss is estimated to be over $500,000.
We're looking at approximately $600,000 damage loss because of the smoke. The inside of the building probably needs some painting. As it relates to risk, we are not able to say what the risk is at this point.
To news and sports now, the Reggae Girls ended 2020 at number 50 in the World FIFA Women's Rankings. The Jamaicans also remain 5th in CONCACAF behind the United States, Canada, Mexico, and Costa Rica. The Reggae Girls are number 1 in the Caribbean, followed by Haiti, who are 62nd in the world, and Trinidad and Tobago, who are 67th in the world. Now, 2020 saw the Reggae Girls only play 3 games, which came in the final round of the CONCACAF Olympic qualifiers, where they won a game and lost 2. They started the calendar year at number 51 in the world. The top 10 ranked teams in the world are USA, France, Germany, Sweden, England, Australia, Brazil, Canada, and Japan. Now, 2021 will see the Reggae Girls commence qualification for the 2023 World Cup. And If you're just joining us, the government has instituted a ban on all flights coming into the island from the UK with immediate effect. This will be for a 2-week period, ending January 4, 2021. However, flights coming into the country over the next 24 hours and outbound flights to the UK will be allowed up to midnight Tuesday, December 2022. Those traveling from the UK would be subjected to a minimum of 48 hours state quarantine and PCR testing. And that's the midday news. Thanks for watching. Join us at 7 for primetime news. On behalf of the news, sports, and production team, good evening, good afternoon.